Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Stanley Company P45HD-110-690. This is what's called a spacer block. It's a large piece of steel. Includes fasteners and a complementary finish. This is in the 690 finish, which will be a bronze type color. Let's take some basic dimensional properties. Overall length, about 4 inch. Overall width, about 1/2 inch. And probably the most important dimension is the thickness, and it's 1/2 inch. I think it weighs about 0.75 pound, something in that range. Actually, let's take a closer look at that. 0.65 pound. So this video will serve as a visual tour of the item. Dimensionally, we've covered it. You've got 4 holes there. You can, if you start to think about this, where those holes are going to line up, obviously with the parallel arm sort of mounting location that you'd have on a heavy-duty arm from a Stanley 4550, 3550 series closer. Where would you use this spacer block is the bottom line. If you sell closers, you're certainly familiar with spacer blocks. For a 5th hole spacer, a regular parallel arm bracket is going to have 5 holes in it. The 4 that you'll see here, and then you're going to have, of course, the 5th hole. And sometimes you'll need a spacer because the depth of your frame, meaning or vis-a-vis the width of the soffit, is too small to be able to sink that 5th hole in. So you use a spacer for that. What if you don't have a soffit? And that's what this is used for. So let's switch to the screen view and take a closer look. Okay, so here's the item that we are looking at here. Not much to see, but there are some links down below this video. And before we get to those, let's again talk about what and when you're going to use this. So you're certainly familiar with a standard frame. You're going to take that door, it's going to swing out, and your closer is going to be here. Well, that parallel arm bracket is going to mount in here, right? This item, that area right there, that's called the soffit. Okay? That's called the soffit. This is the rabbet. That's the face of the stop. That's the stop face. This entire area here is referred to as the stop, no doubt, but we can break that down further. So your parallel arm bracket's going to mount in here, as you know. Well, what if you have a frame that is an aluminum storefront frame? Okay, with a blade stop. That's called a blade stop. Now you're going to need to mount that parallel arm bracket, okay, in that area. So what happens here is you're going to add the spacer block, which by no coincidence, I'm making that wrong. You're going to add the spacer block, which by no coincidence is 1/2 inch, which is generally what a blade stop is. And then your parallel arm bracket is obviously going to, come there. That's the point of the spacer block. So neat. Links below this video. This is the cut sheet that shows you the page from the catalog that it can be found. Spacer block for mounting the HD heavy duty parallel arm bracket on the rabbet. And again, the rabbet that's the rabbet. That area here. That's the rabbet. Now there's also a link to the product catalog, and it's the entire 4550 series, so that will have to suffice for purposes of this video. This is a unusual closer in the sense that I'm not familiar with any other manufacturer's closer who meets this. And this is manufactured by an Asian company who makes power tools. And it's my understanding that sooner or later the 4550 will be sunsetted and replaced by another closer manufactured by Dorma in Indianapolis, is what I've been led to believe. And by the time you're seeing this video, that will possibly be quite old news. But this product catalog is handy because it will allow you to review these HD or heavy-duty arms that they refer to. And if you're familiar with grade 1 closers, you know that there are more than, one style of heavy-duty arm. Here's an HD arm with a dead stop, and a hold open. Okay, and that's where your spacer block's going to work on, right there. Still might need that 5th hole spacer, and your closer would likely automatically comes with that 5th hole spacer. I don't see reference to it in the document, so I'm going to imagine that they do include one. And the reason I say that is because they provide drop plates. And drop plates, of course, are pretty exclusively in the realm of the aluminum storefront industry because you're dealing with very constrained, dimensional properties onto which you can mount otherwise really giant hardware. There's also a link to some installation instructions. There's the heavy-duty parallel arm installation instruction. Unfortunately, they don't refer to the spacer block here at all. And in the full installation instructions for the 4550, I don't see any reference to the spacer block either. But the reason that you really need that spacer block is because in a standard application where you have a soffit and you're going to mount the closer, the parallel arm here, your door can operate because you're clearing the obstruction, because you're mounting to the obstruction, the stop or the soffit. But when you have that blade spacer, you cannot mount it here. Okay, so what you're really doing is adding the block spacer to give you the ability to run those screws through, so that you can then otherwise operate your door closer. But these documents are here because they are important and supporting documentation. Speaking of important supporting documentation, there's a link here below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Stanley products that we sell, but also a link to several encyclopedic documents. Stanley has morphed into or been brought into alignment with other very well-known names such as Dorma, Kaba, Best, Precision, and their catalog continues to become homogenized and rebranded. Stanley, used to be just someone that we would think of for hinges, at least I would, and that architectural hardware catalog from 2010 is a good vintage Stanley hinge catalog. So if you need that, here it is. This is the document I refer to on a weekly basis for sure. But they've broken that up into commercial hardware as well. Hinges, exit devices, door closers, lock sets, low energy operators as well. Okay. So that universe of Dorma Kaba, I think is the name that they're going with, includes Stanley, Best, and Precision, is ever evolving. Let's wrap up this video on camera. In conclusion, if you need this spacer block, you might need drop plates as well. In a very typical piece of equipment. Again, the name is Stanley is quite synonymous with many different products nowadays. There is going to be some sort of cross-branding with Best. I think Stanley hinges are going to be rebranded as Best hinges for some reason. You've got names that have been around for a century and a half, and now all of a sudden, Best is making my hinges. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure it's for the better. And I believe that all of this rebranding and reconfiguring of primary names is because Dorma Kaba is competing against Assa Abloy, Allegion, obviously Dorma Kaba, and Hager. Not nearly the scope of these multi-billion-dollar multinational corporations, I don't believe. Wants to be a player in all that as well. And what I mean by that is under that single name, they're providing all this cohesive material. The name Stanley is trusted across the industry as far as I can tell. For me personally, I prefer their hinges. It's an incredibly high-quality product that have exceptional fit and finish. Any questions on the Stanley P45HD-110 and a 690 finish? It's a spacer block or any other Stanley product. Please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.